So it's been a while since the last outing for Daniel Craig with Spectre, but we're finally getting a look at the No Time to Die teaser. Not a trailer, but a teaser for the trailer, which infuriates me a little bit.
It
John, did
is.
you get to see it?
I did. I saw it twice because I blinked the first time and missed it.
Mm.
The 15-second teaser really is not much content at all.
It's like watching Usain Bolt do like the 100-meter dash. You're just like, all right. I don't know why we bought tickets to the stadium in the Olympics to watch people run because it's over before you know it, but oh well. But it's basically on Wednesday, a trailer drops for Daniel Craig's last outing as James Bond in his fifth movie, No Time to Die, which I love this name for a movie. It is so James Bond. I love it.
So Bond.
So Bond. And the movie's slated for April 2020 release. And this was released Sunday night.
Something like that. Yeah, pretty recently.
Yeah, and my thoughts, even though it was 15 seconds long, which I do hate, it gave me chills, like Skyfall chills.
Okay.
I thought Spectre was okay. I know a lot of like huge James Bond people, like people who've watched every single movie, were like, "Oh, it's a back to the original. It felt more like old Bond." I understand that, but time does move forward a little bit, and I do like the Skyfall feel.
Yeah.
And how the villain was more menacing rather than like gimmicky like the other Bond villains are. But the shots they took and the stuff they included in this teaser was really cool. Like the Aston Martin with the Gatling guns,
Oh my
the
gosh.
motorcycle jump, the woman in the teaser with the Kimbo machine guns, and we didn't get to see Rami Malek, but we got to see this like ghostly figure. So I'm all in on this, and I'm probably gonna be very excited for when the trailer actually drops.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's only 15 seconds. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a mix between like Casino Royale and Skyfall. Just in like the way the action was shot, the feel of it, like you said, kind of the overall vibe. I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch the trailer, and I'm cautiously optimistic that this would redeem Craig's franchise. I think, especially since Skyfall, and that was kind of like the pinnacle of it, and did not really maintain that for very long afterwards.
You mean with Spectre?
Yeah, which I mean, I there were parts of it that I enjoyed, but I definitely think it was a step back from Skyfall.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like it just when Skyfall hits so well, and then you have Spectre, it's just like, They changed directors too, so maybe the writing and maybe some of the shots and the acting, which I did like Christoph Waltz, but I think he could have been more menacing if they wanted to. But with that, I just hate how I have to like I see it's Sunday night. I have to wait all the way to freaking Wednesday. Like dude, come on, just if you're gonna do the teaser, do it like the day before so that everyone knows like, oh my gosh, I have 24 hours to digest this, and then it comes out. Oh my gosh, when I wake up, hopefully it'll be up. But no, it's like 3 days out. Cool, thanks, bro.
Yeah, I think it's just like teaser culture in general, where you want the topic to be trending for as long as possible. So they think, oh well, if I release it like a week in advance, then people will be talking about it for the next week. But no, like I mean, we're going to talk about it for maybe like another minute or two more, and then that's going to be it until Wednesday.
Yeah. Do you think this movie's gonna be? Do you think it's gonna live up to the end? Or live up to the hype of the last James Bond? Do you think it looks good?
I mean, it from like I said, from like the 10 frames that we've seen, I think it looks good. I mean, it sounds like they're trying to throw a fair amount of plot development into the movie to kind of pivot the franchise in a new direction. So I hope that they can balance that with tying off Daniel Craig's arc and make it an entertaining movie, and not just kind of shoehorn in all the different things that they want to fit to kind of kickstart it and with a new actor next. Like I said, I mean, like I think they'll do all right. I mean, I hope that they kind of take the all the high points from the good movies and listen to the fans and critique themselves very well.
Pivot.
Pivot.
Don't forget. And then, what's your thought on teasers?
Oh god, teasers are dumb. If you're going to show me something, I want to see the thing. I don't want to know that I'm going to see the thing in 3 days. I mean, like we've talked about this on other episodes where I'm very impatient and I want all the things now. So I don't like there's not even really any hints in there about like what the movie's going to be about. There's not really any time to show anything besides a shooting gun in a car, and teasers in general are just very dumb to me. I don't like them.
Luckily, they didn't do the cardinal sin of like the 5 second, like the trailer to the trailer, and you're like, bro, get this garbage out of here. Where it's just like, where you have like THX sound and maybe like some some shots of this movie of like a gorilla or something like boat going through a bunch of buildings close up on the rock's face, and then it's like the trailer for Rampage, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then the trailer starts, and it's ridiculous.
Oh, like
stupid.
those short little Facebook ads. Those are even worse.
Everything is a Facebook ad. Zuckerberg! All right, everyone. Welcome to the Summon Up Podcast. We just did a little bit of a talk. Our column was morally about the No Time to Die teaser. Hope you enjoyed that. But this is where we talk about movies, shows, games, and whatever the heck we want. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and YouTube. I am joined by my good friend John.
Yes.
Happy holidays, John.
Happy
and
holidays.
I'm Chris. We are your co-hosts for the day. And John, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Chris?
I am so excited for the holiday season. And you know, it really kicks off with either football, with my Dolphins winning some crazy game against the Eagles. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. They were supposed to lose, and they ruined Eagles fans' hopes and dreams, which I know. They still have chances down the stretch, but for this week, I am a winner. I'm a winner, basically. And, yeah, I love Christmas time, or holiday time, whatever you want to call it. There's a bunch of cheer, a bunch of good deeds you could do for people. Wearing a lot of red and green, and red's my favorite color, so, yeah.
Definitely best time of year.
So, what you got for us today, John?
So I wanted to talk about a Joker 2 theory that's been circulating around. Joker 2 is not even in production. It's just kind of on the radar right now. But people are already speculating about what it's going to be about, what it could kind of introduce. One of the main theories that I've been keeping an eye on is the second Joker introducing the real Joker that we're going to see in future iterations of the Batman. Some of the things I like about this theory: Arthur Fleck is not typically the idea of what we've seen as Joker in other iterations, where he's this criminal mastermind who is able to mentally just foil anything that Batman throws at him, that is always 2 steps ahead of him. He was really more behind the 8 ball on everything. He was accidentally causing riots. He was more of an indirect menace than a direct one. Something else I like about it is Arthur Fleck, age-wise, doesn't line up with Bruce Wayne that like he typically does in the comics and movies. I mean, we've seen the super creepy image of Arthur Fleck put his fingers into Bruce Wayne's mouth, Bruce Wayne not react at all, and have him form a smile, and that shot will forever be ingrained in my brain, and I hate it, and it's so weird.
See, I'm not weirded out as much by that as like yes, it's disgusting. I get that. But what also got me was like when he cocks his head and he's got the white makeup on and he's got the green hair, like when he doesn't have any of the normal makeup to go with it, like the inflections, when he's got those guys in his apartment, like the other 2 clowns he worked with.
Yeah.
And he's just like closing off the doorway, like talking to him, like, you know, like, hey, everything's great. Everything's spiraling, but I love it.
See, and that's the cool thing, because I think that Arthur Fleck would be a great kind of archetype or like an inspiration for the future Joker. And that he is kind of this figurehead of all the chaos that's been happening in Gotham that has kind of been inspired by the events that he was kind of indirectly involved in. And so I think it would be really interesting to see kind of a mirrored development between Bruce Wayne and another character that would eventually be the Joker, where Bruce Wayne, his interaction with all of the riots that were caused by the Joker led to his parents' death, which led him down the path to become Batman. So that kind of that dark spiral into who he became. And then if those riots impacted someone else in a way that inspired them to see, oh, well, this is what happens when, this is what we can do to create change. This is how change should happen in a community. So kind of more of like a dark mirroring of their upbringings, in that
Okay.
whether Arthur Fleck eventually like mentors this future Joker or not, it doesn't really matter. Or if he's just kind of off in the distance as like a very distant inspiration for him. I think that could be a very interesting story between the rise of a new Joker and the fall of a Bruce Wayne and their mirrored interaction. The wealthy versus poor, the physical versus psychological match for them. And we've also known that Joker is an unreliable narrator in his own storytelling, like we saw with Heath Ledger's Joker, like we've seen in the comics.
Oh, and definitely Arthur Fleck's version, when he thinks he's dating this girl, but he's imagining it the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that was really well done.
Oh,
it really was.
absolutely.
I am very, very skeptical that people are already talking about doing a second one and what they want that to be. I don't think you have two Jokers. I think that muddies it up, the legacy of the Joker and where he has been in the comics. But I do believe this is a more realistic take on the Batman series. Much like I would think with Christopher Nolan. However, the difference is that Christopher Nolan has a different palette to his works. Christopher Nolan's is more mobster and bigger picture, whereas this was more character piece with Arthur Fleck. And I think that you could still transfer that into the second one, but I don't want to see it that, understand Arthur Fleck's not a mastermind, but he can develop that a little bit, or you can have another bad guy into the scene and then Arthur walks upon it and makes it chaotic. Maybe Bruce Wayne as the Batman, has got the city, on his side. There's a new bad guy, and he has to outsmart him. And as soon as he does, Arthur Fleck comes into the mix and just ruins everything, but that kind of story I would be more excited for, but that's just my idea. I haven't read that anywhere on the internet or anything, but these ideas that they have for two Jokers, I just don't like it. It doesn't do the character any justice in that way if you have multiple clones of it. I think it needs to be, there are different versions of the Joker, but having more than one at the same time, it just doesn't seem to work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with you. I do think that what they've developed with this movie and how it is its own standalone project, I think a sequel that ties it more into the Batman universe would just kind of muddy the water and would almost dilute the impact that the original movie had. I think you're right. I think it should be a standalone movie about the impact on the mental health community and the way that a city just crumbles under the right circumstances. I don't think they need to tie it in with Batman. I think the whole Wayne connection was more of like an indirect tie-in, not really something that was like a necessity to then be a jumping off point to bring Batman into the universe. I'm totally okay with this being its own thing and maybe having a sequel if they can find the right story for it. But then in the Robert Pattinson movie, just having another Joker altogether that is disconnected enough from Arthur Fleck. And that way, in its own way, we have multiple Jokers existing with their own origins to where there is not one unified, this is how the Joker was formed, this is who he is. So that way he can still be that unreliable narrator and kind of have that murky background.
I just don't like it. I just introducing, someone who's inspired by the Joker. I don't want them to use the name Joker. I want them to be like a copycat. You have like copycat killers out in society and someone who's inspired. I'll take that, but I want a different name. Like if they want to do like Fox Joker or something like that and spelled out that way, I would be more inclined to think it would work. But to bring back Joaquin Phoenix and to have him do the Arthur Fleck character again to fight off against a billionaire who's got all these cool gadgets if they're going to stay true to the comics. I don't think it's going to happen. And if they're
Yeah.
going to make it more realistic like the Nolan, someone who has an incredible amount of resources and fights the underworld still, yeah, no, I don't see it. I don't see it working out. However, I only say that because we've seen WB try and do things their way and it falls apart. And when you have really good directors be like, hey, this is what I want to do. And they're like, okay, kid, go do what you want. And you won't make any money. And then it makes, I don't know, $1 billion for the first rated R movie with the Joker. It makes me more inclined to say, as long as they have the right people on the project, I have faith. But with that being said, what I would like to see, if they do go the sequel route, and if they're going to introduce like a Fox Joker, real Joker, or something like Arthur Fleck, what I would like to see is that there's no Arthur Fleck. But what he did to Gotham by killing, by the Waynes,
murder.
Waynes dying, and his, insurrection, everyone being made as a clown. I want that to be the breaking point for the city. And I want us to get exposition of all this stuff that happened while Bruce was growing up that descended the city into chaos. So that way, there are no stakes when you introduce Batman. When he does decide to fight crime, I want it to be where the odds or the cards are stacked against him immensely. That it's so ingrained because of what Arthur Fleck did in the past. Kind of like how we deal with the ramifications of losing Tony Stark in the cinematic universe. Mm-hmm. How we lose Robert Downey Jr.'s character. I want it to feel like that, but in a darker, there's so much things wrong rather than good type of feeling.
So let me get your thoughts on this just before we move on, just your quick thought on this. So rather than the sequel being a focus on the Joker and its connection to Batman, what do you think about the sequel being more of an origin story for Gotham in a way that the Joker was the first kind of bowling pin to fall in the first movie, and the sequel leads to another villain taking over, and that continual decline of the city as a whole. And in future movies, we pass the torch from one villain to the next and see the city continue to fall more and more into chaos.
I'm fine with that. You keep on passing off the torch. But in that regards, you need to have a payoff, in which I do think at the end of that, you have to bring in Arthur Fleck again, but as someone who's more refined, or as someone who is the wild card for the rest of the villains who are now losing their grip on the city, and that Batman is believing in the people. Batman is getting the cops to come around and not be corrupt. And that's the only way I see that series working out, and in which case I think that's a huge risk that I don't think WB would take, but I think fans alike would love that, because that is in itself a larger plot development and a callback that I would see more from Marvel than I would trust from DC.
That's fair. Speaking of wild speculation,
oh boy,
and speculating about what future things could be, the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about was, now that we're halfway through The Mandalorian, we have a pretty good sense of who this character is, a kind of a general idea of where they're going with it. I just wanted to take a second and just wildly speculate about where we think that they're going to go for the next 4 episodes.
The next 4 episodes. Yeah. Well, the first 4 episodes, I've enjoyed it. We still haven't seen some of the things that were in the trailers. Like the Stormtrooper helmets on Pikes. Haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. In kind of preparing for this, I went back and I rewatched all the trailers that I could find, and we've seen probably 75 to 80% of the material they've put out in the trailers. There are still those few things like the helmets on the Pikes as like that opening shot, which was, it gave me the chills. We haven't seen any of Bill Burr's character. We haven't seen Moff Gideon yet, the Death Troopers that he's with. So there's still all of these characters they're trying to introduce in a relatively short period of time. I mean, in less than 2 hours, based on how the previous episodes have gone. So what are your overarching thoughts about the kind of main plot points they're going to hit for these next 4 episodes?
Well, I think that as a series, since we're at the halfway point, I think they've done a good job leaving me not knowing where the series is going to go, as far as specifics. Well, we know that Baby Yoda is the central plot point that is moving the story along for the Mandalorian, who, if he didn't meet the baby, would just be doing the same thing no matter what. I do think that, you know, it is going to be, like you said, and what I guess the rest of the internet is saying is that the kid's going to get captured by Moff Gideon, or Moff Gideon's coming after him now. And there's going to be Bill Burr. I do not know whether he works for Moff Gideon. I do not know if he is a bounty hunter himself. He does look like, with the army he has in the trailers, that he is Empire or something along those lines. And for me, I think we're going to go in the direction of he's going to lose the kid.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna lose the kid, but I think Baby Yoda, and a lot of people are saying, don't do this to me, but I think Baby Yoda is going to die.
Oh my god, the internet would literally break if that happened.
Well, think about it in terms of this. There needs to be something at stake, and someone has to die, or someone doesn't have to die. But I think for this series to really impact us, I think it's something that either the kid needs to die, or it just needs to be one of those things. I don't see how else it goes through, and I want the bounty hunter. I want the Mandalorian, to be, to me now, public enemy number one, and I want to see how he fights that in future seasons. I don't think Baby Yoda surviving for the whole time is going to help propel the story further along. And I think that's where we go. I still don't think we see any part of the New Republic, since we're still on the outer reaches. I think that's something we could probably see in the next season if they bring it up. And I'm excited to see... I really am excited to see these Stormtrooper helmets on pikes. I think it's not... I don't think they would do that on a Republic or New Republic type of planet. I think that would be on, like, the bounty hunters, like where the Hutts control everything. I want to see, like, that kind of old Western still. And then next season we'll get the futuristic cool stuff with buses flying everywhere and diners and Jamba Juice and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, a lot of good thoughts. So kind of where my head is more at is I think in the next episode, maybe two at the most, I think we're going to get introduced to Moff Gideon, and I think he's going to basically be retracing the steps of the Mandalorian as a way to track him down to get the child, which I think would be a good way to reintroduce the client, maybe kill off the people as he meets them, so he could meet the client first, then be led to the planet with the Ugnaught, maybe have Nick Nolte's character die, maybe be led next to Gina Carano's planet with all that community he was just with, which could then be a way to have Gina Carano or Cara Dune escape the planet and contact the Mandalorian and say, hey, these people are coming for you. You need to get out of here now. Take the kid and run, and kind of just be like a wildfire chasing down the Mandalorian, which would then lead to them meeting either in space or on a planet, and definitely leading to a fight, because he's got all of those stormtroopers and the death troopers with Moff Gideon. So he's got a small army with him as kind of this remnants of the Empire. So I think we're probably going to be reintroduced to some of these characters as a way of just kind of setting closure to where the Mandalorian has been, and giving stakes and this certain level of like villainy to Moff Gideon to show how serious he is about tracking down this child as a way to restore order, to rid the universe of the Force. But I definitely think we're going to see how big of a threat he is here very soon.
I wonder when we do see Moff Gideon, if it is going to be the next episode or towards the end. We did get our filler episode. Kudos to you, Dave Filoni, for your fillers.
Yeah.
I just want to see. I want to see more. I want to see the Mando get hurt by the Empire. I want them to throw everything that they have left, because the Empire's not in control anymore. But I just don't understand how the scale of Star Wars. And this is where I get it in a reality standpoint. If you're talking about how big space is and stuff like that, yeah, Mando could get away with going untracked, people not after him as much. I get it. It's a big place. that's put into real perspective. But with Star Wars, there's always something going on. There's never like any downtime. And I feel like with this, we got some downtime. In the Clone Wars, there is not a lot of it, and because those are filler episodes if it does. And I don't want that. I don't want that in Mandalorian, but I feel like Dave Filoni's going to give it to us. And I'm like, no. I like Dave Filoni so far from watching the Clone Wars, but I need this story to propel, and I hope we see Moff Gideon in the next chapter, and I hope it's not as someone who's got his hands directly in the pot. I hope that comes in the last 2 chapters or episodes, where you finally get to see him in front of the Mandalorian. I want him to be pulling strings right now.
I could definitely see that, and just kind of be the man behind the curtain for just a little while longer.
Yeah, make Bill Burr's character the errand boy. Make that happen.
Okay, I'm a fan of that. So then, do you think that he would be more of the main threat in season 2, pretty consistently throughout the whole season?
You're saying Moff Gideon or Bill Burr?
Moff Gideon.
Oh man, that's tough. I think Moff Gideon. I think Moff Gideon, yeah, continues in season 2 if he gets the kid, or they kill the kid or something along those lines. I'd like to see Moff Gideon return. I would like to see him more of a villain who needs other friends. I want the villains to get bigger. And I want Bill Burr's character to be like the person you run in. Like, I want Bill Burr's character to be like the chicken in Family Guy, where whenever Peter sees him, they get into some epic fight, and then, Peter leaves him for dead, and then the chicken gets up, like, at the end of it. I want that to be like the Mando and Bill Burr, but I don't think Bill Burr's ever going to come back.
Oh my God. I think if we sold it to him like that, I think he would definitely take that.
Oh my gosh, it would be great.
Yes.
that little robot gun he has on him, it's so great. But yeah, from my idea is that Moff Gideon does survive season 2. But my question to you is, you said Nick Nolte as a casualty. Do you think you see any casualties besides that of the Ugnaught? Do you think we lose something big that the Mandalorian takes precious, or thinks is precious, or is someone used against him? Is there a betrayal coming up?
Well, I don't know about betrayal, but kind of like what I was saying, if Moff Gideon goes from planet to planet, tracking him down, when he gets to that community that the Mandalorian and the child were a part of for those weeks, if he either kidnaps or just straight up kills, was it Omera? If he kills
make
her,
it happen.
Yes.
Make it happen.
So then if Cara Dune escapes the planet, she can tell him that Omera was killed. That makes it emotional. That makes it connect with him to where he then redirects and goes after Moff Gideon.
I want that. Not so much because, like, oh, I'm so invested in the love story. No, because I want Moff Gideon to seem like a badass. I want him to kill. I want him to be ruthless. See, that is more going into the development of Moff Gideon, which is what I so desperately want. Because we don't have a Darth Vader in this universe. There's no deadly Force user who's got the all black, who's got the deep voice, the lightsaber. We don't have any of that. No even hooded robes. No Darth Sidious stuff. This is Moff Gideon. If he does something as ruthless as that, this series gets propelled. I think it goes to then Game of Thrones territory. Because we're already in memeable content. Winter is coming. We got Baby Yoda. It's blowing up the internet and people have no idea what's going on. This is Star Wars' moment. I really hope they made Moff Gideon that kind of ruthless character.
See, and I think this is their chance to make a non-Force user villain that level of a threat. Because, even Snoke, who wasn't a traditional Sith, he was still Force sensitive. But all of the major villains they've seemed to have in Star Wars lore are all somehow connected to the Force. But if they just like with the Mandalorian, as he's not Force sensitive, he doesn't know what it is, but he's still this force of chaotic good in the most general sense. So if they just have non-Force users reach that kind of pinnacle of good versus evil in a way, I think it's potential to be really good storytelling here pretty soon.
I would agree. I would 100% agree. And the last place I'll leave it at is 2 people. Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yes.
Non-Force user, does terrible things. And Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay.
who blew up who blew up Alderaan. I was just like, oh, come on now.
Just
Seriously?
a test.
You thought I was gonna let them go? It's a test. Let's blow it up. And even so, even when he did in Rogue One, where they blew up Jeddah,
Yeah.
that's what it was, Jeddah. They blew up Jeddah, and then Alderaan he's still, even though he dies in Episode 4, is still ruthless, and I love it. That's what the Empire has to be.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree that maybe this is the series where you introduce those types of villains, just the non-Force users that pose more of a threat, just to like the overall universe. I think they're much more earthly villains that in a lot of ways, and I think that would be very relatable.
Earthly villains? Where are they gonna go to Baby Yoda and be like, want some candy? Get in my van. No, that'd be terrible. But yes. Getting away from that, we've talked a lot about this, but I touched on it a little bit. Watching Clone Wars, I'm at the end of season 2. Still got like maybe 4 more episodes. Liking it so far. I have friends telling me it gets better. Excited. That's what I'm watching. John, what you watching?
So I went ahead and I just finished the first season of the show Making It. It's on Hulu. It's with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, Leslie Knope, and Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. They host a show about just craftsmen making things from show to show. And it's a small competition, and the winner got $100,000. And
cool!
I loved Parks and Rec. I love seeing their interaction as people, and they basically are their characters in human form. But it was really entertaining. It was just really wholesome. You got to see. It's just a really uplifting show overall, and I think you need that every once in a while. So it
seems like HGTV meets Comedy Central.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, it was good. It's a nice palate cleanser to a lot of the darker stuff that's out there that I've kind of been watching.
Like, oh my gosh, people getting kidnapped, people getting vaporized, Jawa's dying.
And now Leslie Knope and Ron Swanson are having a pun off.
Ooh. No. Sometimes we need that. Just like I did Remember the Titans last week, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Palate cleansing. Put some ginger on it, be perfect. All right, everyone. Well, that will do it for the Sum It Up podcast this week. Tune in later in the week for another Mandalorian review, right? Is it this week they got one out?
Yeah.
I think there's a break somewhere in it. Oh, but that doesn't come till episode 9 release. But yeah, we still have time. We'll be doing another review of Mandalorian Chapter 5, Episode 5. It'll be cool. It'll be nice. And everyone get in the holiday spirit. It is Cyber Monday. Get you a TV. Get you something nice.
Well, Chris, they will have gotten them a TV because we will soon be editing this and then post it on Tuesday. It will no longer be Cyber Monday.
So this is much like when people put their blinkers to tell you not where they're going, but where they were. It's the same thing I'm doing to you right now. I'm telling you where you're going to be going, or in that line of thought.
Time is.
You're going to buy
Chris.
a TV, and you did buy a TV. I'm predicting what they're doing.
TVs have and will be bought.
Yes. If only I could invest in the stock market on just TVs. No brand, just TVs. I'd be a billionaire.
Oh my God.
All right, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful week and happy holidays.
Bye.